All right. We're live on Facebook now.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of MBKCares Wellness Wednesday. My name is Isan Hines. I'm the president and founder of MBKCares. As many of you know and followed along this journey to wellness, we've been discussing every Wednesday different components of mental health and community from various angles. We talked about it from finance, physical fitness, therapy, suicide prevention, just a holistic way. So tonight is no different. Tonight's discussion is going to be moderated by MBKCares Executive Board member Eric Marsh. He's also the co-founder of the Fathering Circle. He's put together an incredible panel to discuss Black brotherly love. So without further ado, join us for this episode of Black Brotherly Love, Wellness Wednesday, moderated by Eric Marsh. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Isan. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody that's watching tonight. As Isan shared, my name is Eric Marsh, and we're here tonight talking to an amazing group of community members and activists and folks who are really out on the front lines doing work and have been doing so for years. And the one unifying force that connects all of us is something that's known as Black brotherly love. And we're going to get into where that came about, the origins of Black brotherly love. But first, I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves, share their name, their organization, and a little bit about, yourself and what brings you here before we get into the question. So at first, I want to start off with Emil Acolaste.
Hello,
tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Emil Acolaste. I'm originally from Accra, Ghana. Came to the United States since when I was 8, and I run a nonprofit organization called FIRE, which stands for Free Inspiration, Reaching Everyone. And the goal of our organization is to manifest in the community the ability to find resources and provide resources for them to excel, and in full turn return it back to the people in the community. So that's the overall goal of my organization.
Dope, thank you. All right, our next guest I want to introduce is Serita Lewis. Serita, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do.
Hi, my name is Serita Lewis. I actually have a company called Philadelphia Legacy Development, and our goal is to actually empower people in the Black and Brown community through activities and creating spaces for dialogue and action. So we've been open since 2017, and we actually design a lot of really cool community engagement opportunities.
Excellent, appreciate that. All right, our next guest is Nikki Bagby. Nikki, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here, your organization, the work you do.
Well, it is a lot, but my name is Nikki Bagby. I work for a managed care organization. I am the marketing manager for half the state of Pennsylvania. I also have an organization called Humble Heart, which specializes in public relations, communications, event planning, project management. And my community service background is that I'm a community activist. I helped put the Women's March together with Serita. She didn't mention it, I don't think, for the last 4 years. We've had the largest marches in the country. I've worked on everything from gun violence to affordable housing to health disparities, social determinants of health. Whatever there's a need, I'm just here to serve. So if you have to ask me what I am a servant that just wants to bridge the gap for necessary needs that people need for everyday life.
Excellent. Listen, that was phenomenal. We need to,
right?
I need you to write my intros for me. That was great. But first I got to catch up.
I want her to write my intro.
First I got to catch up in doing all this work. But last but not least, I want to introduce my brother, Taj Murdock. So Taj, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
All right. Hello. Good evening, everybody. I'm Taj Murdock, the CEO and founder of Team Inc., which stands for the Empowerment Achievement Movement, which is also in reverse a movement to achieve empowerment together. So what we strive to do is to cultivate unity in our communities through our youth and adults. Our pilot program is our Men of Courage program, as you can see, with the focal point of serving young men from the ages of 12 to 18. The baseline for our program is empowerment through exposure. It's a preventive program with a lot of violence we have in our city. We strive to expose our young men to greater opportunities so that they don't go down the wrong path. And I'm also one of the organizers of Black Brotherly Love. So we all came together on that project. We had our silent march on Juneteenth, which was, I'm gonna probably say, the first march with the focal point being mainly on the Black man and healing for the Black man. And from that, we've cultivated a lot of community projects that we all together, we're working on that as well.
All right, so let's jump right in it. Since you introduced the concept of Black Brotherly Love, like tell me or tell us what brought that about. Like what was the impetus for the Black Brotherly Love March? How did it come about and how did it come together?
Well, the first thing was just like everybody else, you know, sitting back during, you know, quarantine and the pandemic, we had no choice but to be on social media or watching the media and what was transpiring. So just seeing a lot of despair, not only in our community, but across the country, but in particular, the Black man and what he was dealing with. And it just dropped in my spirit that there had to be a sense of healing that was intentional for the Black man, because not only what we were dealing with currently with the likes of George Floyd and others, but what we've been dealing with for centuries, you know, with Juneteenth being like that date that was symbolized as our actual, like the abolishment of physical slavery. There's so much mental and emotional slavery that the Black man is still carrying to this day. So it was monumental at that time for the Black man to come together, first of all, to unify. And in silence, the key why we said silence was because our presence says enough. A lot of things that we face as Black men, we don't even have to say anything. When you show up, you're a threat. When you show up, they look at you a certain way. So we wanted to symbolize the presence of the Black man with that silence, just marching in solidarity. But also the huge part of it was that we created was just a moment where there was a loud outcry, war cry, if you sort of speak, that the Black man could begin to release some of that pain, that trauma that they've been holding on for years. You know, so it was a symbolic moment for that, but also for us to branch off and for that to be like the launching point of some of the community work, because we didn't want it to be just a normal march. As a matter of fact, Eric, you were the first person I talked about with that, where it's enough marches going on. We knew we were marching through West Philadelphia, but we wanted to make sure that we were intentional about coming back and pouring into that community. And one of the beautiful things that we can say is that during that march, we had so many dollars coming from the Black community that was able to go back into the Black community. So that's pretty much the impetus of what we were trying to do at that point.
So let me ask you this, because that was beautiful what you just shared. And, you know, as you mentioned, I was there early on, got a chance to participate. I want to find out from Nikki. Nikki, there was a lot of language around Black men, right? That was just shared around the Black Brotherly Love. Share with me or share with our viewers your thoughts around the Black Brotherly Love March and what you thought about it when Taj first mentioned it to you and you first got involved.
First off, the wonderful relationships I built with yourself, Taj, Serita, and our community of community. Anytime there is something of this sort, you know, it's really hard for either one of us to say no. So when I heard about this fantastic march for really kind of the focal point was brothers, I thought it was an awesome, awesome opportunity. We are in a very hard time with the civil unrest, with the world finally seeing some of our issues that we have. And I thought it was a great time. A lot of people weren't having anything for the celebration. But you know me with prayer, I believe we needed to pray and move forth. So it was just a wonderful opportunity. As soon as he said something about it, and we all came together, we were ready to move. So we were I'm not even talking about the march. You just asked me about when he said it. I just thought it was the best time to really pay attention to what our brothers needed in this time.
So speaking to that, about what our brothers needed from a woman's perspective, right? As a Black woman, right? Sometimes there can be pushback or a challenge sometimes when it's like, you know, what about us? So like we're all affected. Black women, Black children. What were you able to see with that march that inspired you or connected with you as a Black woman?
I was able to see for the first time in my lifetime that there was a platform for Black men to be seen for true who they were. That there was finally a space that our brothers can really take their rightful spaces as leaders, as Black leaders in our community. Not saying that women are not, but for so long, I feel like there has been several platforms, not a lot of platforms for Black folks overall, but for women, we seem to have a greater platform than when it came to men. Not saying that they did not, but to me, the world will give an opportunity to a Black woman before they'll give an opportunity to a Black man. And I just thought it was time for us, people who work with Black men, who are fathers, our husbands, our sons, the families see them as we see them, the leaders of their community, but in a way that it's not with a police with their knee on their neck. It wasn't in a way that they're handcuffed or in jail. It wasn't a way that they're just rapping and playing basketball. Not saying that you can't do that, but I wanted people to see everything behind that. Really see the heart of our Black men for the first time in my lifetime. Disclaimer, I'm talking about my experience.
Hey, Eric, you mind if I add to that a little bit, Eric?
Sure, go ahead.
Because as Nikki was talking, I think one of the things that we did see in the midst of it all as well was the true definition of the Black community as a whole. Because though it was on the Black men, we had Sister Nikki and Sister Serita in the background holding things down, but also with that march, so many of our queens that were waiting for us to embrace us. And that symbol of the man being out there doing the work, but then also we saw how many young guys were leading that. So we're showing them the way. So just that model of the Black man showing a young Black man how the work needs to be done, but then also the Black woman being there to support and embrace and cultivate that, because a lot of what we did wouldn't have been possible without what Nikki and Serita brought to the table, which is the design how it's supposed to be, where the Black woman is helping to cultivate that leadership and us getting back to that rightful position. So just want to make sure that our viewers get an understanding of that as well.
I'm glad you shared that, because I was actually going to challenge some language, right? When you say Black women supporting, right? But the reality is that they were there at the table from the very beginning. And I think it's important for the entire community to understand that just because someone is the poster boy or poster girl, just because someone is the one in front of the cameras, does not mean that there's not an entire community of support behind them. And I really love the idea, just in terms of recognizing that there were Black women. There were Black women, and there were also people who were non-Black allies supporting the entire day. And that once you got a chance to see the actual gathering and the march itself and the being met at the park, it's really a beautiful experience. So Emil, I want to get your input before we start transitioning to some of the other work that Black Brotherly Love does. Emil, tell us about your experience with the Black Brotherly Love, not just the march, but also what are some of the other things that happened after the march that you've been involved in?
So from the march on, it was the experience was just phenomenal. Just being able to lock arms with brothers. These are complete strangers, and just seeing the passion that they had, even the willingness to drive to 52nd Street and actually walk those blocks. And it was very hot out there that day. But just how they felt all together, just being able to walk the blocks, and then the actual talking aspect. So when we were delivering our speeches, the attentiveness that they had was incredible to me, because they were ready, like as if like we were about to give orders for war, which it wasn't, but it was just more so a celebration of us uniting and letting go of pain that we have experienced over the years. And the biggest thing that resonated with me was the children. They were really on the front line, walking with determination, because they felt it. They felt how we felt. And even with the messages that we had on our faces, that was a depiction of something that we didn't realize resonated with them. So the kids really made us feel powerful and actually doing it and being literally side by side with us. So actually, even with Jared, when he was chanting. They were ready to lead the pack, and I thought that was really beautiful.
Nice, nice. So Serita, let me ask you, because again, going back to your involvement in the march and the things that occurred afterwards. I know the community cleanup and the community piece was actually something that was integral to the march. As Taj said earlier, it wasn't just a march, right? It was part of an entire movement of happening around the city. So Serita, tell us a little bit about your experience, not just with the march, but what are some of the things that occurred afterwards in terms of the community activity?
I actually do a lot in the community. I'm just really bad at talking about it.
Here's your chance.
I actually am a anti-gun violence advocate and a youth advocate as well. And so I spend a lot of time with our kids, and I spend a lot of time in the community just trying to make ways for us to do better and to actually get access to spaces and places that we don't normally get access to. The gun violence has definitely been something that's top of mind for a lot of people in our community. And as such, through the different organizations that I've worked with, like Black Brotherly Love, with Dreamline, with City of Dreams Coalition, I've been in a position to be on the ground working with folks to make change. And so when we do our cleanups, they're important because it changes the way that we perceive our spaces. When I'm working with our youth in programs like at iDay or whatever, then that means that I get to talk to our kids and really find out what they're thinking about. And they're really concerned about a lot of things. So creating spaces for them to talk and for them to be the ones that are deciding how we treat them and how we treat our spaces is important. So I've been learning a lot from our kids about what they need and about how we design the next steps of what's going to happen. But when we started with the march, it was like a clean slate because it's not something that I've ever seen before. And it allowed for our boys and our men to be vulnerable with each other. And I don't think that that's something that's ever happened before, especially not the scale that we had it, like where our boys and our men were screaming at the tops of their lungs and they were crying and they were angry, and then they were able to release it all because there were other men there to say it's okay. Because when I, as a mom, tell my children that it's okay, they kind of expect me to, but our children, our Black children, have gotten away from believing that their Black men are there to tell them that it's okay, to tell them that they're proud of them, to tell them that they're loved and that they can have emotions and still be men. So this was like a huge catapult to that. And it also created a space for our children and our men to rethink how they want to engage with the world, where they can be more vulnerable and still be okay with being who they are and with allowing other people to see them in their vulnerability.
Excellent, excellent. That's really beautiful. And that makes me think about, it raises the question, and this is something I want each of you to answer, but I want to go to Taj first, right? Talking about that vulnerability. What was the moment in your life that made you realize that you couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore? What was the moment that made you realize that you had to get involved and start making a difference in your community and helping in some kind of way?
Well, the first moment began actually when I was incarcerated. I did 2 years between 2008 and 2010. And a lot of my mentorship started there because I would, I had accepted and took accountability of what I did, and I was at a point of being 34 years old and lost everything. But the one thing I had prior to my incarceration was an image. And a lot of times I would talk to these young guys about, creating this image and wanting to live up to a certain image. But the reality for myself was that I was living in so much darkness on the inside. And that's what led me to my incarceration. So prior to, I had all the things that certainly made you feel like something, like they say a lot of times, a man's identity is attached to his accomplishments and the things that he acquires. So I had all that, but I was so empty. So being behind the walls and having some of those conversations with some of these young guys, and a lot of ones that were like 18 to 25 per se, just their mindset and their way of thinking, like they felt like they had no other choice. Like this was the life that they were supposed to live, that going in and out of jail was what it was supposed to be, because that's what they're showing all the times. Or in one particular time that it really struck out to me, and it's ironic, I ran into this young boy last week out of West Philly. Him and his dad was at the same prison with me. Him and his dad were sellers. Yeah. So when you think about that aspect where it's like, for him, what does he aspire to be when that's his pop? When they sitting in and they building in the cell together, like that was their time to bond. They hadn't seen each other in years, but their time to bond was in the jail cell. Mm-hmm. So it's things like that that struck with me, was like, no, we got to do something different. I knew my own failures and my own self-destructive behaviors that came from the lack of positive examples. I did pretty good, but I still didn't have that male role model that I always desired to have. So once I came home, of course, I'm working on getting back on my own feet, but just looking at the behaviors, I saw the behaviors different. Most people see the behaviors, and what I started to see was the pain. I started to see the discouragement, the fear, the anxiety, the being abandoned, the disappointment, the things like that. So I was looking past the behaviors because I knew what my own behaviors were prior to my own demise. So just started having conversation with some young guys, and there was a career day at Simon Gratz, my alma mater, and I was asked to come in and talk about barbering because, I had the experience of traveling with athletes and all of that. But it resonated with me. Like, I sat in the same school. One young boy was sitting in the same desk that I sat at, and I kind of had like an out-of-body experience of when I was there, and I had no idea what was coming next. I didn't know what was going to happen at the graduation. So I just started having real-life conversations, and yeah, I was there to discuss my success, but I really started diving in on my failures, telling them that, I was a high school dropout before, telling them that I had fights and battles with addiction, telling them that I struggled so long with my manhood because I didn't have a male figure to show me, that I had a mom that did the best that she could. So after that presentation, principal or admin brought a letter to me that was from two of the young guys that sat in on that class, and how they said that my story, my failures resonated more than the success, because it helped them understand that no matter what they were dealing with, that they can make it out. So that was the birth of Men of Courage, where I came back and started a 9-week course with about 7 or 8 young boys at Gratz. And then the following year, I'm thinking I'm going to pick up with them, but they were like, no, the internship was only for sophomores. Your guys are juniors now. We're going to introduce you to a new group of guys. And at that point, I was like, no, because that's what the world does too much. The world makes an impact and makes an impression, but then drops them off and leave them hanging. So that's when I started, like, just at the barbershop I work at, hey guys, this Saturday, come through, we're going to order pizza, we're going to bust it up. Hey, asking people, hey, for donations, and taking like about, 10 of them down to Baltimore to the Blacks and Wax Museum, and just having that experience to get out the city. So from that, I just started to build on it. And today, here we are with, a full-blown nonprofit.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, Nikki, I'm going to jump to you. Same question. What is it? Now I'm going to share a little bit of background, right? Because when I met this woman at Steele School, right? It was around the holiday season. And I believe the time that we met, this was probably your 14th, 15th year.
Yes.
Doing the holiday party.
Yes.
To be consistent, to be working that long and doing what you was doing, impacting so many children year in and year out, over and over again. Tell me, what was your personal story? What made you get to the point where you realized that you needed to give back?
My heart for my community in Nicetown. I have 6 children. Me and my husband actually were in 5th and 6th grade together, which is funny, right? But what it was for me is that my oldest daughter is 30 years old. And what it was for me is I was consistently coming to the school. Parents weren't showing up. Some of the kids were reckless. Some of them got caught with crack in the school. A lot of young boys were just acting out. And I used to just sit down and talk with them. Like, what's going on? Like, what you feeling today? I remember one young man told me, he said, well, I don't live in the neighborhood. I said, this is what I want you to do. I said, if you can stay in your class for a whole week and not get sent in the office, I got something for you. So he didn't get in the office a whole week. And when I saw that, when I was able to motivate people and I saw some of the issues in the community, that's what really drove me to want to do more. And again, like Taj, it was the school that I went to. When I walked in them halls, it wasn't the same. We had, we had orchestra, we had jazz. We had a lot of our teachers came out of they were baby boomers coming out of the Black movement. So we learned about Anansi the Spider. We had tap and ballet. We had jazz. We learned about Langston Hughes, Gwendolyn Brooks before we were in 5th grade. And when I came to that same institution and it was so desolate, I said, I got to do something. And that's what really triggered my love to want to give back, starting with my own community.
Excellent. Excellent. So what year are we in now that you, how many years has it been that you doing this holiday? You're not gonna tell her yourself. That's all right. That's all right. You started when you was a baby.
17, Eric. It's 17.
It's still 17.
So this is going to be my 18th year. So we started, in 2003, and faithfully, by the grace of God, every year we're able to take care of. We started with just the school, taking care of about 500 to 600 kids, and then it has actually spun out to helping neighborhoods, helping other schools, helping autistic children, wherever the need is. And we also sponsor about 100 families that really, really need. So it's grown to about 3,000 individuals during the holiday time. So
excellent, excellent. And you started when you was 8, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's what we're gonna keep.
I was going paper.
Yes.
Flyers.
Emil, I know you've got a clothing drive and a shoe drive coming up. Tell us a little bit about your personal journey. Like, what made you start this process? Where did you come from? What happened in your life that made you realize that you need to be positive, you need to be an asset to your community?
So, growing up, I think I always had the personality of just being kind and generous and having a hard time telling people no. So even in high school, I was always good in math and science. So that started there with the tutoring and helping people pass their tests. So that led on to college. I was working for Glen Mills School at the time, and I used to see some of the boys that would come in there, and just hearing their stories was very disturbing. Seeing some were as young as 9 years old, and they were there for attempted murder because their grandmom's boyfriend was trying to kill the grandma. Like, the stories were crazy. But all to say, he was put in a position where he was trying to defend the family member, but ended up being in the detention center. So this is one of the many different stories that I will hear. And I'm like, okay, how can I help these children? Either through talking to them, but they're in a situation that, not saying that it's the end all be all, but how can I mitigate that early on? So from college, I started thinking about different ways I could be impactful. I had took a trip in 2012 during my graduate school to back home to Ghana, and I met a guy named Alan Freeman, who was building a basketball playground for the people there. And I thought it was kind of amazing because, one, he's not from the community. He just want to help. So just from having a conversation with him, the thought of philanthropy started resonating with me. And until several years ago, I started really understanding my true purpose in life, which was to help out my community in any capacity that I can. So that's what helped me create my organization, FIRE. So with the acronym meaning Free Inspiration Reaching Everyone, the goal was to literally try to provide resources and anything to help anyone that we can. So I try to do a lot of stuff in the Philadelphia area, but I also go to different cities and do things like Chicago, done a couple stuff in LA, and I've done stuff in Ghana. So what I'm doing in Ghana in December is having a donation drop-off. So the drop-off is actually going to start in October here in Philadelphia at the One Art Center. It's It was October 10th, and the goal is to get donations of clothing, sneakers, books, and other resources that will help the kids in Ghana, particularly. So I have a school that I'm working with in Ghana to try to help provide some resources that they do not have. The climate down there is very rough in terms of resources or the lack of, just when it comes to shoes and just books in general, just for literacy. So my goal is to create a program there. And also talking with Ms. Serita, she came up with a great idea of creating a conversation between the students or even the adults in Ghana and the ones here, so that we can have a cultural connection. So that's my goal, and
Okay.
hopefully.
So you said that's going to start in October. You're going to have a drop off. How can people find out more information about the drop off and be able to donate?
Okay. Yes. So you can email me at firefree2016@gmail.com, or also on my website, which is www.firefree2016.org. Facebook _free99. I have different barrels throughout the city. On the sites, I'll put the locations of different drop-offs, but the 10th will be the last drop-off. So if you're unable to make any drop-offs till now, you have until the 10th where you can come and bring whatever you have.
Okay, so the 10th is the last day for drop-offs.
Yeah, so I'm having a big event to celebrate everyone who's able to give.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I want to start transitioning a little bit to another line of questioning. And I want to go to Serita, because you kind of touched on this a little bit with the groups you work with. You talked about this with the young people at JJC and some of the other teams around the city. What the big issue that we're facing right now in this city? Gun violence. I know for a fact, and many of you already know, statistically, we run into this issue where the majority of the shooters and the shooting victims are between the ages of 15 and 25 years old, right? Let's get down to some conversations around what do you feel like and what are you hearing from young people that might be the cause or the root of some of this violence? And how can we start maybe addressing some of the solutions? But what are the causes? And we're going to go around to each of you to get your input on that before we start talking about solutions. Serita, I want to start with you.
So it's actually really interesting because a lot of the kids that I talk to and the adults say, well, there's nothing to do. And so there's two things. They'll say there's nothing for them to do. And the other thing that they'll say is that they don't have any money, so they need a job. And so those are the two big ticket issues. Honestly, I think that they feel many of the people that end up, engaging in these unfortunate situations either feel like they're pressured by the community that they're in to figure out a way to make money to just kind of level up, if you will. And so they'll do it by any means necessary. And unfortunately, when you go into those situations, typically it's a larger organization like a gang, or just like, I guess gangs are not as prevalent in Philadelphia as they are in other places, not saying they don't exist, but sometimes in Philly, it becomes more about the neighborhood that you live in. Like, you on this street, what you doing on my street, because that's not your street. So it gets very territorial. So, crossing lines in terms of where they live becomes a problem, because you have youth that are like, no, I'm not going over there because I don't know nobody that I bang with over there, so I can't go there. The other part to it is that they say they don't have anything to do. And so when you think about the rec centers and how the rec centers and the bureaucracy creates barriers to them accessing a space to be at, that's a challenge. When you talk about jobs, you have I mean, like, I'm just going to say it the way that I feel about this. The way that the systemic racism is set up, it basically means that anything that a Black person does turns into a felony, and that felony follows you for the rest of your life. It makes it damn near impossible for us to be able to, once you've gotten into the machine, no matter what you do, it's harder to get out of it. For you to be able to get a job, it's really difficult because that follows you for the rest of your life, regardless of all the days, years, and months that you have spent in jail. You no longer get to just go back to just saying, this is who I am. It's very hard to reinvent yourself. And so when people leave the construct, they don't really feel like they have any other place that they can go, because you got your PO coming at you, you got your you got the people that you're trying to get a job from saying they don't want to hire you. You got people that's saying that you can't live there because you can't be in that neighborhood, or they don't want to rent to you because you've done a felony. So there's a lot of like things that circulate and kind of add to it. But then there's the undereducation and the miseducation that many of the people in our community kind of experience. So if you're undereducated, like, somebody's not going to tell you about all the things that you can do and all the access to places that you could have. They're just not going to tell you. And if you don't know how to ask the right question, you won't get the answer that you really require. And the misinformation is from the people who just don't know, or they find it's easier for them to tell you whatever because they know you're not going to research it because you don't know. So they take advantage of people that are undereducated and miseducated on things. And yeah, that's a problem.
All right, Taj, give me your feedback on this issue, because you work with that specific age group, right? The one that I named, the one that... Tell me your thoughts around what are you hearing and seeing, and what do you feel is at the root of this violence, and how can we address this issue?
Well, piggybacking off of what Serita said, she was definitely on point in terms of they don't have anywhere to go. And a lot of them are looking for resources in terms of like finance, because one of the things is like the trauma that a lot of our young people are dealing with. We don't have enough discussions around what they're really facing. We're not talking about personal traumas or environmental traumas that they have to overcome on a daily basis. There's been times where I've encountered with young men and talking about their anger, their rage, and where that comes from. And the outward emotions, again, going back to what I said earlier, we see the behaviors, but we don't know what's going on at the core. I've had young men that are telling me that, like, they have parents, young mothers, who are still out here living in the streets. And you got the guys in the neighborhood that's, you know, tricking their mom. Mm-hmm. And they at home trying to raise their younger siblings. So that's a reality for a lot of our youth, which I would be angry at that too. I would be ready to hurt something or hurt myself if that was the case in my life as well. So we're not doing a lot of the support for them on the mental health side of things. But then also, I'm just going to keep it a buck and just say, you know, all the listeners out here, we need to start putting a lot more pressure on these city leaders and these city officials in terms of all these spaces in the city. And there's too many organizations, like every organization on this call, that doesn't have a home to house our organization, where we're providing resources and safe haven for our young people, but we don't have anywhere to go. Me, myself, I'm tired of being in a different location every year because this didn't work out at this rec center, this didn't work out at this community event, or they're not available when, again, our young people need somewhere to go. A lot of times the household is not somewhere safe for them. So where else can I go, or where can I go and find like-minded individuals who want to get away from this? And if I can't find that, in turn, what I'm going to do is, can't beat them, join them. Mm-hmm. Can't beat them, join them. So again, where do we have those kind of spaces? And then also entrepreneurship, because like Serita was saying, the systematic oppression is going to be there no matter what. So yeah, we could push them to go to college, but college is not for everybody. If I got a parent that can halfway read, you know, it can't help me get online, especially during this turmoil that we're dealing with. A lot of these parents can't even help their kids get online. Mm-hmm. So if I got a parent that's not helping me, what's that going to do for my education? But if we're teaching them and cultivating them to work more with their hands, those are things that'll never leave you. By the grace of God, I had a trade when I came home. So I was able to still do something with a record, you know. So how can we get ahead of the curve and be able to expose them to something completely different before they get caught up in that rat race of life, which is the wrong rat race of life? So I just think we need to have more preventive attention as opposed to being reactive. We're reacting to certain things, but we're not thinking ahead of time. Like Emil works with young kids that are younger than 12. Me in particular, I work with young men at 12. We know we go back to slavery. When you were 12, they took you from your family and sent you off because you were old enough to work the field. So nowadays, being a 12-year-old young black man, we see them as children or young men, but the world and society sees them as a black man. Half these young boys got more facial hair than I do. Half of them as tall as I am, big as I am. So when they go out into the world, they're a threat no matter what. And they're not mentally and psychologically prepared for what's out there. So we need to wrap our arms and our hands around them so that we can shape their minds, but also giving them tangible skills to get out there in the work field or get out there in scholastic academic field so they can be prepared for what's to come. Because they really don't know the reality that's out there. They're looking at it, but they really don't know.
So let me ask you this. So Nikki, why don't they know? Why, as a mother of 6 children, as somebody that's active in the community, and all of us here are in this same position, why don't our young people know? And what can we do to rectify that?
First, I want to add, they kind of summed up a lot of it, but one of my solutions, I believe wholeheartedly, is that the city, the school district, the city officials, and a lot of people, to me, need to be a part of the solution. Not saying that some are not, but my thing is, children spend a lot of time in school. It really needs to start at the heart of the matter. There needs to be trauma-induced care taught in their everyday learning. There needs to be people who come in and build in their curriculum. I'm talking about these high crime, high incidence, underserved, underexposed areas. And then those are the areas where the needs should be put more. There should be all kinds of sports in these areas. Right. There should be all kinds of arts in these areas. There should be all kinds of people who are psychologists and therapists that's ingrained into their everyday curriculum. Why am I my brother's keeper? They need to understand that when they're 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds. Teach them about their environment. Teach them to be accountable for one another, right? Those children, you have different children that learn different ways. Now everybody is inclusive in one room, and you got one children that's high strung that you really need to let them utilize their hands instead of telling them to sit down. You got some children that are introverts. So don't be calling on them every few minutes. So there's a lot of biases. There's a lot of things that I think that should be addressed, especially because we find that in some homes that it's not being addressed. Like Taj said, some of the people have trouble sitting down, including me sometimes. I'm like, I ain't learned math like that, boy. What you learning? Right? But I'm going to keep pressing. I'm going to call their teacher. I'm going to be on their neck. But that's me. So being able to find safe spaces, like Taj says, I was able to find people that just spoke life into me. I learned French when I was 12 years old because the teacher taught me because I really wanted to learn it. I came after school. There were spaces for me that even though I had issues at home, I knew that I could be somewhere after school. I knew I had somebody to talk to. And these children, they're either fearing them. Oh, listen, I ain't got no issues with car generation, but we know, and y'all, this is a disclaimer. These are folks that I know. Some of these baby boomers don't understand how it is to connect to young people. Yeah. And you get somebody with me sometimes, you know what I mean? Because we got a generation to tell you, do what I do is not what I say. Shut up and sit down. But yet, you doing everything under the sun. So it's about being accountable for one another. It's about not being fearful. They know me. I will go out there on the corner with these young boys. What you doing out here? Yo, Miss Nikki, why? Because apparently you out here. Right. There has to be some connection. And when you show young people you have love and consistency, you're going to get them the same messages, but I got something for you to exchange what you're doing out there. Because this is a bar. Facts. This is Facts. Facts. The only way you're going to make something happen is that you're going to give me something to show that I don't have to be out there and do this. Because at the end of the day, I need to feed my family. At the end of the day, I don't have no camaraderie about the street. We know there ain't no friends in the streets. You understand? So you getting me hyped. So my
I'm not getting you hyped. You getting you hyped.
Okay,
you getting you hyped.
Because we need to teach this at every level of our young people's life, because this is a health issue. Yeah. Yes. This is a health issue. Yes, so if it's an emergency issue, let's look with the city officials. Let's look with Dr. Hyde. Look at these schools that have these high incidences and let's deal with it. Bring people into these schools and teach these children. Help them deal with their trauma. Eric, you know, when we brought Center for Grieving Children in, there were 20 kids that were 6th and 7th graders that saw family members murdered. There was one young lady that lost 20 of her family members, and she was only 12 years old. What do we see for a child like that when she's writing down her messaging and she's saying, my, where do I see myself? I see myself dead. So why should she every day and work hard if she don't think there's nothing there for her? So we need to strategize in a way that we can come in and deal with the problem head on. Find spaces, because the parents ain't going to do it. All of them. A disclaimer, I ain't talking on. But there are some parents and some issues that they need help. So if a child got trauma, you know they popping their mom. But if I'm giving you help and the family ain't dealing with it, they going back in the same situation every day. So we got to address it at all areas. We got to bring the police in, officers who love their community, that look like them. I'm going to be straight up.
Yes.
You know, we don't trust officers, but at least bring some brothers in that look like me. Understand me. And baby, I can do some things. Bring some psychologists in to talk about, okay, yeah, I got into this fight and I got beat up till I was bleeding in my mouth. Now I don't want to go to school. But yet we sitting them next to the perpetrator. And then we got to deal with the perpetrator who's angry. We can't just look at the child, the person who's going through the trauma. We got to look at the person that caused it.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, like, you also have to think about, like, you got all of these kids, like, the school systems are set up not to support our children where they are right now, but to support an idea of what they expect kids to do and be. So when you've got kids who are dealing with all of these traumas, you get to school late and you got somebody digging in their behind, giving them detention because they got to school late, and that child was like, oh my God, I made it to school. I didn't have breakfast. My clothes are dirty. I'm going to be bullied by the kids here. I had to take care of my brothers and sisters and make sure that they got wherever they needed to go. I had to dodge potentially somebody who was going to, like, I might have got like in trouble because my parent was drunk or high or whatever. Like, any of these things could have happened before they got to school.
Before they walk in the door.
Right. Before they walk in there, and then they're barraged with people who are doing nothing but disapproving the fact that they made it. And so after you go ahead and go and deal with that, then you've got kids who are on the other side. They're dealing with bullies when you're in school and all like that. And then you're getting suspended. Like, what are you going to do with a child that's been suspended? They haven't learned anything. They haven't really been able to talk about what's going on, and there haven't been any alternate solutions. All they're saying is, you can't stay with us because you're not good enough. Instead of finding out what's going on with you so that we can really help you to make sure this doesn't happen again. They have been able to use yoga and meditation and things in other school districts. It works very well in Baltimore. And actually the kids are able to then go on and teach their adults that surround them ways that they can actually self-soothe, and that they can actually work on managing their anger. But in Philadelphia, they don't do that for our kids. They continue to hold our kids to some insurmountable challenges and don't give them any room to mess up and any room to actually have somebody love on them. And we don't have a lot of parents that are always able to be in there, because the school also doesn't try to figure out a new way to engage parents where you can't be there when they tell you to be there. Like, I had one daughter that went to SLA, and I had one daughter that went to Academy of Palumbo. And SLA had a very different model. So they were like, okay, so report cards are coming up. Yes, your child's in high school, but report cards are coming up. So what time would you like to come in? Does 5 o'clock work for you? Does 7 o'clock work for you? Does 3 o'clock work for you? But they made it work so that I didn't have to worry about school, but these are about my job, and I can manage both my kids. So you have to be able to make sure the school district and the politicians and all are actually moving to make our kids have a space that they can feel safe in. I'm just saying.
Interesting. No, actually, no. We've had you guys left me speechless because there's nowhere to even go, right? So where do we go from here with this situation? Because we talked about what we need to do. We talked about making these safe spaces. But we also talked about our elected officials and folks who we put into positions of authority and accountability.
Yes.
How are we going to hold them accountable? How are we going to get these resources to our community members, to the people that need it?
We got to call their office. We got to show up to the hearings. We got to go up to their offices. We got to come to their meetings, come to their town halls. And sometimes you got to be there repeatedly, or you got to work with the one person that has your same thought pattern and the same agenda, and that can move certain things so that then their colleagues or his colleagues can join, jump on board. But it's about working with people who are going to work with you and then constantly be in their face. You got to show up to these hearings. Eric, I used to see you there all the time. You understand? You got to not only show up and sit there, but you got to speak. Get that stuff documented so that they can hear your voice and they can record it. Show up to these town halls. Invite them to these town halls. Call them accountable. This is who I invited. Special guest is, if they don't show up, that's on them. But it's important that we stay before them. It's important that we run for office. Listen, if they can't figure it out, you do it. So, getting those people who, have the like-minded or taking, listen, running for office yourself. Because who can do it better, right?
I think another aspect of that, Eric, as well is, empowering our community and the people of the community to let them know that they have power in their community. Because if we look at what we did with Black Brotherly Love, the moment that we asked for $1, we had money flowing because they felt the authenticity in the work. So that's the first thing I'll say for anyone that's striving to do something. Be authentic in what you're doing, because people see straight through that. So if you're authentic in what you're doing, the love is going to come. Moving in faith is a whole nother thing, because God is going to provide. So, but if we're activating and cultivating our communities, the people in the communities, where, let's say if we got our eye on one particular property that we know is up for sale, what's wrong with going around to the people in the community? Because again, it's your families that are being affected by everything that's going on in the community. Because again, people wait until it hits their doorstep. But right now we're at a time where everybody feels what's going on. Though we in the modified green, whatever phase we're in, we still see everything. The crime, the violence is at a I think we're number 2 behind Chicago, but we're on pace right now. We're going to have more murders than the days in the year already. So that's a reality that people are feeling. So utilizing that, because we're energized, but we're not organized. As a people, we are energized, but we are not organized. So it's going to take people who are organized to put things in motion, like we did with Black Brotherly Love, to be able to bring something to the table that they can see, that they can latch on to, then that we could use their dollars to be able to go get something. Because collectively we can do it. We have the biggest buying power in the economy out of everybody else. Instead of y'all run out here and get these PUA checks and y'all run into Gucci and Louis Vuitton and Saks Fifth Avenue, take some of that money and put it into a pot, whereas that was going towards buying a property that's going to save our children, which will also be a resource hub for the parents that don't know any better. Because it's okay if you don't know. It took me a while to become this man that I am. I dropped the ball time and time again. You thought I had grease on my fingers because I couldn't pick the ball up. But at the end of the day, I finally got it. So how do we help those parents so that they can have that, have the sustainability in the household, along with giving the child those resources as well? So pushing the envelope towards these elected officials, but also not leaving it only on them. That what role are we going to play? Because everybody on this call, we've done it with no dollars. We've done it with no dollars and made an impact. Nikki said it best earlier. Gain a relationship with these young people, and I guarantee you they will move mountains for you. Yes, but you can't gain a relationship with them if you're not interacting with them, if you're not out there doing the work with them. If you're not doing the work with them, if you're not sitting down and having conversations with them, because the other thing is we keep talking about gun violence, but it's never a young person at the table. It's never a young, Serita and I talk about this all the time. We have candid conversations with our young men to understand, what do y'all want? Because this program is about y'all. So if we keep talking about our future, why aren't any of them at the table having a conversation about what needs to be done? It's been a long time since I've been 13, 14. These streets is way different from when I was out here. So I can't speak exactly to what they need. They need to be at the table. Stop being self-serving. That's what I'm going to say on here. Stop being self-serving. Because as long as you continue to do the work, it's self-serving. The work needs to be passed on, because when you're gone, the work will die with you. But it's too much work to be done. So stop being self-serving, pass the work on, and show others how to do the work. That's the bottom line.
Well, say it for the background one more
drop.
time. I'm sorry. Say it for the background one more time.
Get one of
That's
these.
right. That's right.
Can I get one of these?
Hey, yo, Emil, I don't know if you want any of that heat. I don't know if you want none of that fire. No, but
I was about to say.
I'm speechless. All I'm going to say is I'm here to work. That's it.
you're here to work.
it.
You're here to work.
That's it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Well,
say something to Eric. I do in this. I feel that it's important that, like Taj said, that not only are we talking about the political figures and our political leaders, but when people need to see camaraderie amongst our own
Facts.
You know, it's too many of us that want to be chiefs and nobody want to do the servant part of it. Because, you know, we can look good, the camera's there, but the problem is as soon as the camera's gone, nobody up there to pick up the broom or nobody up there to hang around with these young people when they have questions. Yeah. So we need to be accountable for one another because we have to fill in the gap for those who don't know how to or just don't want to. Because some people don't care. So when the ones who don't care, we have to for our youth. We have to be that voice of reason. We have to be their examples to everyday life. So it's important that we continue to build within our own system because we are their trusted people to go. I look at young people, somebody be like, oh, that child always cussing me out, not in front of me. I've never respect me. I've never heard them cuss me out because this is Miss Nikki's thing. Have you ever heard me cuss? No. Have I ever disrespected you? No. So whatever you give them, you're going to get one or two that's going to try you. But when they see, because they're doing that to see if you're going to give up on them. They're doing that to see if you're going to walk away. Yes. When you still there and you say, I don't care. What did I tell you about your mouth? Listen. Well, Miss Nikki, you grown, but Miss Nikki grown. Do you hear me disrespect you? And them be the ones that come back. Yes. And them be the ones that become loyal because they don't know what loyalty is.
And that's one of my, listen.
Remember
that's one of my, go ahead, Serita.
So I remember like Ms. Dot, Mr. Popcorn, like they would dig into your butt, but I knew that they loved me and I knew that it didn't matter. So when I'm around a child, if I'm with you, you my kid till you're not with me. And I'm gonna hand you off to another adult. But you know that when you're with me, you know how far it's going to go, you know how far you could push things, but you know how much I love you and how much, even if I'm going to admonish you, it's going to be with
but listen, all right, so I'm going to play that. I'm going to challenge that, right? So how do we teach these adults who don't know how to do that? Because you don't know the number of men and fathers that I have talked to who regularly talk about their own children. Like, you know, I had to go punch him in the face. And I was like, how did that work out? It didn't work out. He kind of big now. He got the best of me, but I got my point across. No, you didn't get your point across. So how do we, who know better and know that you have to lead with love, how do we inspire other adults in the community? Because one of the biggest problems, and you all know this, that there's sometimes it feels like there's more of our own community members and adults that talk bad about their own kids and the kids in the neighborhood than the ones that are able to love them. So what do we do about the adults that just have bought into all the negativity about how bad our kids are? What do you do about that?
You got to step in and you got to, first of all, when you hear somebody talking like that, and they're talking reckless about their own kids, you got people that'll sit there and just start laughing. You can't co-sign that. That's like bad.
That's what I was about to say. Listen, people know me. You know, we have friends that say things or act a certain way, and I'll be like, I ain't going to co-sign on that.
Yeah.
Or if somebody is saying something, I always tell parents, we're their first example of life, right? So you can't come in and talk about you about to beat somebody's behind because they see you cussing and calling them all kinds of names in the book too. So we have to lead by example. We have to be their go-to person when they really need answers. It's hard. It's easy to bend a sap because the sap is young and it's bendable. But once that tree is a tree and it's rooted, it's hard. But what you can do is you can help trim some of the things that they're doing, right? You can help guide them and you can be that go-to person. Because I know a lot of wild parents, but let me tell you something. They'll call me and be like, Miss Nikki, I'm your age, or they older. They calling me Miss Nikki, right? Miss Nikki, you know, I'm just going through some things right now. You know, it's hard. Can you help? And I'm still there to help them.
Yes. And that's and they never had that.
Make sure you get it. So I think still just being a person, a go-to person for them, a person that's consistent in their lives just as much as their children's lives.
Yes.
Like, you can't block them out because you feel like they ain't doing nothing. You got to be there for the parents as much as their children at times.
You know what? I hear something strange. I don't know if anybody else hears this, but it sounds like y'all talking about making a community.
Hey!
What y'all talking about?
Well, you know what? We are so fractured. Our community is so fractured that for us, it actually requires us to I'm not going to say redefine, because we have never had a full definition in these generations that I've lived in. And I know up to my great grandmother. So that's 3 generations going backwards, plus the kids and the kids under them. So you got 5 generations of people that never fully defined what their community should be for them. And it's fractured, and we have to now define what it is, and we have to develop our own agenda, and we have to pull everybody in on that.
Yes.
So to touch base on what Serita just said about and what with the Black Brotherly Love movement, what we've been doing, I see us trying to adopt that concept of the community by going into communities and reaching out to them and letting them know we are outsiders. But we care. We care about this specific community. We care about the children in the community, and we have resources and ideas in which can help the community. So what we're automatically doing.
Speaking of community.
So what we actually doing is it's a step that can be later on magnified with another collection of organizations where it can reach to another level. Yeah, let me stop before he goes crazy.
Oh, no, that's good. That's good. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
No, but that's solid. And I think also as well, just the way that even on this call, I hope that our viewers out there get a true sense of the synergy and the power that's in the Black Brotherly Love Leadership Council, because every last one of us are leaders in our own right. But from the very start, we put all egos, all pride, and all agendas aside to come together on one accord. And that's really what it should be like in the community. So Eric, when you say you're talking about community, like this is community. And outside of what we do as Black Brotherly Love, we're intentional about supporting each other in their own individual efforts. So like you spoke of Emil's event coming up, you know, we're supporting that. Brother Kyle, who's not on the call, he had his grand opening. We were there to support that. We're online with you tonight, Eric, because, you know, this is your platform. You know, Sister Serita, Sister Nikki, like each one of us have our own entity. And honestly, we rule our own kingdoms. But we're able to come alongside you and stand beside and say, yeah, that's my man. That's my sis. How can I help? So that right there, hey, that's it. That right there is community. That's community. Yes. Like, you know, we stronger together. Again, I'm a lover of our history, and I'm going to cut this short. Loving our history, I study so much, and I think of every era of opposition and obstacles we had, we got through it together.
Yes. Yes.
Every era throughout history, everything that we were faced with, we got through it together. But now we're at a point in time, and I'll say this, our ancestors had more courage and less resources. We living in a day and time, we got way more resources, but less courage. We don't want to step up. We only want to fight for the things that we feel like we want to fight for. But again, we in position. We got too many people that have power, too many people that have resources, too many people that's in position. But everybody want to be in their own silos doing their thing. Man, if we put this thing together, man, we won't have no problems. And that's just it.
Right. All right, so we got a few minutes left, and I want to actually start getting into, you know, we shared a bunch of ideas in terms of solutions, but one of the things that we're big on here at MBK Cares is actual practical steps. So what are some upcoming events that people can support? What are some resources that people can tap into, whether it's a website or a phone call, or a phone number that somebody can call? What are some things that each of you can share that allows people to step into their own power and feel like they have some agency, right? And something that they can chime in on. I know You mentioned the Eco Foundations, the open house recently. They're a 24/7 agency that people could call and contact. What are some other resources that you want to share, that we can share with the people that are watching, that allow them to step into more solution-oriented space?
One resource I like to, sorry, Taz.
No, go ahead, bro.
One resource I actually just came across a couple weeks ago, and I've been building a good relationship with, is it's called PA and New Jersey Helping Hands. It's a great group that deals with helping students of all ages through tutoring. So I felt that that was a very good resource to have, especially with what's about to transpire with every kid going back to school virtually, and not having the lack, or more so the resource, to be able to identify with the education that they'll be having. And this group will actually come out to centers and help these kids, all free of charge. Their goal is to create an impact and be able to be a viable resource at any given time for students who are having trouble with any subject. So it's called the PA NJ Helping Hands.
Very good. I just put it in the comments. Anybody else?
Well, I know, Eric, on September the 19th, next Saturday, we are having our open house event for our Team Inc. Men of Courage program. And I wanted to do it different this year simply because alongside you guys, a lot of work we've done in the community, being able to not only, register and take in, new mentees, new mentors, new volunteers and things of that nature, but also giving back to the community with food distribution, diaper drive, some mental health resources, voters registration, and also census signups. And the reason why I wanted to do it differently is because for me personally, I didn't want to be like a lot of religious institutions where you're waiting for people to come to you. We've been successful over the past 5 years with parents who care, who are actually bringing their sons to us. But if we look at it, the culture that we have and the temperature in our culture right now, a lot of the young men who are out here may not have the same thing. So we need to be out in the community and letting them see that there's something different. So our young men will be out there volunteering and also cleaning up, and so that some young men from that community could actually see what's going on and try to recruit them in and show them that there is a different way. So that'll be next Saturday, September the 19th, 2400 block of Ridge Avenue. We can be reached at info@teaminc15.org is our email. Phone number is 215-554-1417. And again, on social media, on all avenues, we're at Team Inc. 15 for more information on that.
Very good. Nikki or Serita?
Because I think Serita was about to say something before Taj.
Go after you.
So I want to, because Eric mentioned the Eco Foundation and our brother is not able to get on today, he's located at 5411 Market Street. That is the Eco Center, and it's at 19139. He has an after-school program as well as a summer program, and they're doing some phenomenal work there. I just wanted to mention that. Again, 5411 Market Street. Their number is 267-999-9909.
There you go.
That's what it's saying on the page, and I believe it.
She got it. She got it. That's right.
I think he did that on purpose. I'm always, I can't say one thing I was doing, but what I was doing this week, which we'll be doing for the next 4 weeks on my job side, is that there are 4 cities in the United States have had the highest COVID increase. And of course, it's in the Black and brown communities. So I've been out in Chester today. That we will be there Wednesday through Friday for the next 4 weeks to October 2nd from 9 to 4. So people can come up, they can either walk up or they can pull up in their cars and get testing. Along with getting testing, you're going to get a safe kit, which is toilet paper, paper towels. It is a big thing of hand sanitizer, some masks, and Philip Bundes gave 2 big bags of food. So if you're interested, if you want to drive over there, it's at City Hall, which is 1 North 4th Street, City Hall, Chester, PA. And it's only like 20 minutes from Philly, but we're doing that for the next 4 weeks. I'm also working with an organization who's been working with us through doing some events through COVID testing, family planning and counseling, Family Practice and Counseling Network, who will also be at Taj's event. We're going to work with putting a luge event together in Southwest Philadelphia. They're going to have the first actual doula center, women center, Southwest.
Awesome.
Right there on 60th and Woodland. There will be a doula center, and y'all Black women know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
I know what that
I
is.
sure don't. I don't.
I know what
but
it
I'm
is.
just shaking my head in agreements, like.
Because we listen. The reason die in pregnancy.
It's a doula. It means it's two of them.
We lose our because of some health disparities that we're having in Philly. We need that center, especially our Black women, because we die in pregnancy. And we also lose our children at the highest rate, more than any other culture or race. So we're so glad. So we're going to have a large event with book bags, haircuts, the whole nine. Someone online said, what about COVID? So anything that we have, they're all going to be, this is a disclaimer, go grabbing the events. So a disclaimer, so I don't want y'all talking about, oh yeah, they got it going on, but we about to shut it down because there's haters always out there. So no, it's not an event that we're going to be sitting around. It is all of our events until COVID has moved out, disclaimer, will be less than 2 people, and all events are grab and go. We're not having people sit around. We're going to give them what they need, and they're going to keep it moving. Disclaimer.
Excellent. Serita, real quick, you got anything?
Okay. Yeah, so actually the free library is an amazing resource, not only for people to just identify what other things you can do in the city, but also provide virtual options, and not just for our youth, but also for adults. So if you're interested in a number of things, you can go there, including BRIC, which actually is a really fantastic program that helps you to become an entrepreneur in your own right. And they do everything from helping you with your business plan to getting you a headshot. So like all of that stuff is available, and it's free or very minimal cost. The Network of Neighbors Responding to Violence is an amazing organization that is actually housed out of the Human Services Department over at Philly for the city. And what they do is they actually train people to be trauma responders. And so as a trauma responder, you're able to go out and support people when something happens. The only time that people go out through the Network of Neighbors is if we are invited. And I am a trauma-informed care responder. And so when somebody has an issue, whether it be at school or whether there's a shooting in a neighborhood or whatever the case may be, or even if you just want to be able to understand how you go about handling your own self-care through your company that you work with because you're just kind of stressed out about something, we come in and we do 3-hour-long sessions to work with folks to kind of help them. We are not therapists, and we don't claim to be, but for people that don't really have the tools necessary to get through that first hurdle, we are there. And if you want to become a volunteer, there's an amazing training that goes on that helps you to be a trauma-informed care support person. And even if you don't want to go into that, you can still have gone through the training, and it's super helpful for people in just actually learning how to engage with people who are going through something. And most of us are. So if you don't do anything else, at least going through that training it's tremendous. Also, there's your PDAC, which is Police Department Advisory Committee. And that is important because if you have concerns about what's going on in your community and how the police department is engaging or not engaging your community, becoming a part of that advisory council allows you to be on the ground floor and know who those folks are and be able to make serious impact. You can also make sure that you hold your council person, your state rep, your congressperson, and your senator responsible by becoming a part of their group of people that they know. If you are constantly there and you have questions, ask them. If you don't know where to go to begin that, start off with just a quick Google and find out who those people are, and then go ask questions. I need this resource. How do I get it? And if they don't do it, they'll tell you who does. That's their job. So there's lots of resources out here for us. And this weekend, not this weekend, but right before the Men of Courage does our amazing program on the the 19th. After that, we're going to be doing a program. We're streamlining a program with Dreamline, and it's an art project that really allows for our youth to elevate their voices through art and talking about the things that are on their minds and the things that they would like to see to help their world become better. And I'm actually part of the Dreamline team as well. And so that's going to be virtual, and we'd love to have you guys come through for that as well.
Excellent. Well, relating to that, and I want to share a resource before you go. I hear you, Nikki.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Kyle has a fundraiser. He just had it put up here on the 25th of September. It is Portraits for the People. They're taking headshots and asking you, as you come to take headshots, bring 3 items of toiletry or clothing. And you get a free. Yeah, so that's on the 25th. And that's on a Friday from 5 to 8. And if you bring, again, 3 items, you'll be able to get some headshots.
And that's at his location on 54th Street? Perfect.
Excellent. So we will share all of this information in the chat. I also wanted to add an event that's coming up that I'm personally going to try to connect each of you who are guests here tonight to this event. I'm one of the organizers for the upcoming Philly Teen Rise and Dream Conference.
Nice.
This year is virtual for the first time. It is a collaborative effort between the Advocacy Institute, YSI, the Mayor's Office of Youth Engagement, and Urban Youth. It's going to happen on Saturday, October 3rd. It's a free event. It's open to teens of all ages. We're currently developing, one of the thoughts behind it is actually it's going to be very similar to the Roots Picnic that occurred this year.
Nice.
And so there will be virtual performances highlighting some of the teen youth talent from around the city, as well as teens leading interviews with some of our elected officials, including the mayor, some city council people, and there's going to be a keynote speaker. We're starting to do a drive. We're going to be giving away free face masks with the Rise and Dream logo on it, as well as posters to get people involved. And a lot of the conference is really going to focus around the issue of gun violence from a teen perspective. What do they want to see? What are some of the causes? So I wanted to share that. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. Before we go, real quick, Ataj, I know you got to run. Share your contact information again for the people that can that are watching before you jump off.
777-9311.
All right.
No, again, you can definitely find, you can email us at info@teaminc15.org. Call 215-554-1417. Website is teaminc15.org. And social media is @teaminc15.
Excellent. Emil, share your contact information before we go. You're on mute, brother. Can't hear you.
_fire. Free 99 is the Instagram page. Okay. Facebook is fire, and email is firefree2016.
Yes, don't forget donations, y'all.
Yes.
Wait. That wasn't a whole email address. You said firefree.
Firefree2016 @gmail.com.
Thank you. There you go. All right. Ladies, Nikki, share your information for us, please.
My page.
Everything.
Nikki J. Bagby. Nikki, it was just clearly on there for Instagram, and for Facebook, Nikki Smith Bagby. I normally post stuff on there, so if anything's going on, just check my page. I just actually posted Kyle's event about the headshots.
Excellent. Serita?
I'm on Instagram, Miss Serita, Miss MS_Serita, SERITA. You can reach me on email at Serita, SERITA, @urbanseek, URBNSEEK.fun, FUN. Or, you can call 267-538-0558.
267-538-0558. 558. I just put your number in the chat. I put your number in the chat because one of our supporters, an amazing woman who is also a family and individual and couples counselor, therapist, Tyrus Mack. You know Tyrus. She was just asking for your information, so we'll make sure that she reaches out to you.
Awesome.
I don't know if my brother Isan is on or not, but usually Isan will wrap us up at the end of our conversations before we go.
Thank you, Isan.
Thanks,
Before
Isan.
you all check
Thanks,
off,
man.
just make sure you stay on until after we turn the recording off. We want to thank you all again for being here. Thank you all for sharing your just precious time, because I know how busy all of you are, and the immense knowledge and wisdom and resources that you shared. So thank you all very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Don't
Thanks
forget
for
to
having
vote.
us. Don't forget to vote. Yes.
Don't forget to vote. Exactly. Isan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. This was a phenomenal panel. I like how raw the discussion was. I'm pretty sure the people out there listening and people who are going to listen in the future are going to love it as well. Thank you for being on the panel, Serita, Emil, Nikki, and Taj, and thank you for doing a great job moderating again, Eric. I want to say a couple of things, and if I have anybody's time, I do want to share a video that actually just came out tonight. I want to help get this information out and this video out that my brother Kalani Davis actually released today. Is a special project that came out that speaks to the injustice that we've experienced as Black people and at the hands of police and just other people who took our lives into their own hand. I want to make a couple announcements just on the mental health component as well. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the death of 2 people who died from suicide last year. This is Suicide Awareness Week on a national level. And last year we lost the director of the University of Penn Psychology and Therapy Department. And there was also a pastor of a church out in California. I just want to acknowledge that people who are helping people with mental health often struggle, and sometimes they struggle in the dark. So we don't want to take for granted that other people out here are wounded healers, as my sister Lori has told me, but also just want to make sure that you all are aware this is Suicide Awareness Week, and there are resources out there. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is doing some incredible work this week to keep the discussion normal so people realize that they're not struggling alone. There's also a walk that comes out, it's coming up on October the 4th, which is a Sunday. It's typically a walk at the Art Museum. This year is going to be a virtual experience. I encourage people to go find afsp.org and look for the Philly Walk experience. It's going to be virtual. It'll be on Sunday, October the 4th. My final point is vote. Like they said, this election is real, and we have somebody out here trying to get his people to vote online and in line. So we need to make sure that they're not voting twice, but that we are voting at least one time like we should be. So make sure you're voting. I've been talking to some young people, and it's discouraging when they say their vote doesn't matter. If you get 1,000 people saying they vote don't matter, then we're missing 1,000 votes. So we don't need 1,000 people. We don't need anybody feeling like your vote doesn't matter. So without further ado, I'm just going to share this video. If you do have 5 minutes to stick around, I would like to get y'all immediate feedback when you see it. This video is raw. I had the pleasure of being a part of it. Again, this video is called Systemic. It was created by my friend Kalani Davis, and it deals with a lot of things that are going on in our world. It's very powerful. And just welcome you all right now to the premiere of Systemic.
What's going on, people? My name is Kalani Davis. I'm a filmmaker in Philadelphia. There's a lot going on in America right now, and the police brutality has been going on for a long time. But I think we can all agree that when George Floyd passed away, it hit a little different. The night George died, my heart broke. And as an artist, I wanted to create something to promote change and encourage my people. So I made some music, I collaborated with a couple of artists, and I made a video. I'm talking to you now because regardless what your influence is, regardless what your craft is, I want to encourage you to do the same thing. And if you feel like there's nothing you can do, the one thing you can do is vote come November. Here's my project.
Sedan, certainly people upset here tonight, but we've got, innocent business owners who are now going up in flames. What's it going to take for you guys to be okay tonight and to stop this chaos?
It ain't me. It's not me. I'm going to let y'all know that now. It's not us guys neither. It's the police. It's the madness that they sparked up. This is what you get out of you taking a love from someone. You get a lot of people that's hurt, and they can't think the right way. They can't no longer depend on the police to be here to protect us like they say they're going to do. I can't tell you it's going to end tomorrow. I don't know when it's going to end. But it's for y'all to start. We're not the ones that's killing us. Y'all killing us. We can't make a change if y'all don't change.
Came into this year, 2020 focus, this spin your head, 2020 focus, January hurt when my hero died, Kobe they go to me, please let me clarify, February very scary, pandemic on the globe, everywhere, heavy worry, COVID took control, homebound, no jobs, increased the stress, March rain, hurricanes, and disease and death, around the same time the cops killed Rihanna, gunned down as she's sleeping in pajamas, say her name, say her name. No justice, no peace, make it plain. Trying to see what y'all selling, but it's all blurry. A brother killed while he jogged, all buried. Say his name, say his name, say his name. And if we free, treat us free and break the chain.
Feeling your adrenaline spilling from in the pen. Another hashtag, they killing on us again. Venom in them, they filming them, sinning, and then he grin. The demon in them scheming is foreign as he a gin. Cold upstairs when they throw me a rampant. Me on his neck, he's comfortable, cold rampant. Me on the set, envision me with a tech. This creep feels like I'm breathing death. Lord help us, Civil War muskets, Civil War's Russian. Being uncivil is just so touching. Beings with the power undeserved, but they lusted. My brother Ford's rampage crushing. See them clutching, pistols they never figured to touch. They figured this much, it's coming this now. Beast with a smirk and a frown. The dirt of the earth with a stench so foul, make the angels say wow.
I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. I said to the group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennisonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with the pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own emancipation proclamation. Let anybody take your man.
We don't get some hella fast, off the virus still at. Everybody by the Democrats. Check all the assumptions about my black skin. Total of my content and character from my actions. Equal in the race without jumping hurdles or backflips. Even if I had a past, leave it in my past tense. Please. And that goes for corporate and cops. I swear I'm off the reform, but if you reform it or not, got this choice moving forward, required for it to stop. It's a hard thing, it's a hard thing. Martin Luther's smart dream, we the offspring, so it's our thing. I carry batons, I carry the torch to speak in my mind, so I reinforce. I still believe in the force, cause every cop been trying to leave you a course. Shit, my white brothers that show me respect, I show you disdain, just know I reflect. Let's fight together till it's better and we find a way to lower this threat.
So just as I say, we aren't gonna let any dog or water hoses turn us around. We aren't gonna let any injunction turn us around. What will happen now? We've got some difficult days ahead.
All right, y'all. I know it was some technical difficulties on there, but that song was just released today by my brother Kalani Davis, and the video is up on YouTube in high definition without the technical issues I was having trying to share my screen.
Yeah.
I wanted to share that with y'all. If you want to say anything about it, feel free, but I just want to encourage everybody out there to stay in the fight. It's for our health, it's for our mental health, it's for our families, It's for our right to be treated as humans. And it's for us to move forward. So thank you for participating again in another episode of MBKCares Wellness Wednesday. Next week, it's going to be another episode. Next week will be moderated by my brother, Lamar Dixon, and the discussion will be about physical fitness and just your physical health. Sorry, y'all, that video touched me in a particular way, so I just thank you for your time.
Yeah, Isan, I wanted to share that first of all, you did a great job. I was really blown away to see you. If y'all could get a chance to go and actually see the video,
Yes.
Again, the lyrics itself, but the imagery and the fact that that was homemade right here in Philly is amazing. So thank you, man. Thank you for sharing it. I didn't realize that was a surprise. I didn't know that was going to be part of the show tonight. So
you can put the link in the, put it online. We're going to look at the link. And my man, Javon is our boy.
I love him.
It's good to see you out there again. We know Javon very well, Jay Johnson.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Your video, I love it. I'm going to share it too. If you send it to me, I'll share it.
I'll share it as well.
That's Kalani Davis's project. He made the film, or he directed the film. He had the ideas for the treatment. He created the beat. That's his whole vision. And he actually created that the night after George Floyd died. He was up all night, like just crying, and he woke up with this beat that just makes you feel like, it makes you feel raw emotion. So I appreciate y'all for your time. And it started with Taj's his screensaver. It started with Kobe dying, like we said earlier. That was a tragedy in itself, enough for the whole year, let alone following up with a pandemic and these deaths that keep popping up that we finding out months after they've occurred. Breonna Taylor's killers still have not been arrested, by the way. And that happened in March, and this is September.
And something that y'all mentioned earlier, I really went to mention it earlier. I don't know if I said it at the top of the program, but I actually I'm going to be co-hosting WURD tonight along with Tiffany Bacon. And the topic that we're going to be discussing is voting. So we got 3 guests to come on. So when y'all talk to everybody mentioned voting earlier, I wanted to make sure to add that and to ask y'all to tune in WURD. You can stream it. You can watch it on Facebook. You can follow on the radio. We're going to be on from 8 o'clock to 9. So appreciate y'all. I'm going to jump off of here. Again, amazing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Stay on a few minutes with you, Hassan, after we leave off the recording, if you don't mind.
Okay.
That's what we normally do. So yes, it's called the after party, but I gotta go, y'all.
All right, Facebook, YouTube, or whatever other platform you're getting this on. Have a peaceful night out there.
All right, good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Peace.